For me, I really began playing officially at age 9. My dad would run leagues in Jersey City at PS14 school, and I always had to play with older kids, so I played with my brother, my two cousins. So I would say about 9 o'clock. I mean 9 o'clock, 9 years old. As far as I was always really small, so for me it was difficult. I really never thought. I just enjoyed playing. I really didn't think about the future, what it could bring for me. I just once I got into high school, I guess my junior year is when I really started to believe I could play, possibly get a scholarship, and I could be a pretty decent player.
All right, next question. What what was it like being the son of a coach? What lessons did you learn from your father about basketball at a young age, and how did that drive you to a career in basketball?
Uh, Obviously, discipline. My father's a really disciplined guy, on and off the court. Being a son of a coach obviously kept me around the game a lot. I would often attend his practices when he was at Lincoln High School, and obviously he became the coach at Jersey City State in the early '80s. I would always go to his practices. So for me, I talk to a lot of people about this all the time. My dad really didn't say much to me growing up. He never took me in the yard and showed me individual pointers. He never kind of did all that kind of stuff. He just kind of, after games, after practices, he just kind of told me what I was doing wrong, what I could improve on, and I took it upon myself to make those improvements. But being son of a coach, obviously, it helped me. Seeing my father coach at a couple of different levels. He also coached in the summers where he coached pro guys. So it just showed me and kind of gave me the idea that I knew if I wanted to be a coach one day, patience was going to be a big part of coaching. And I think I've done a decent job of that so far. When I first started, it was difficult for me because that transition from a player to a coach can be difficult. Uh, but I think I've done a better job. I'm going to my 11th year, and patience is definitely a key to coaching, especially in this day and age.
Do you think when it came to basketball that he your father didn't your father didn't give you special treatment, so it kind of gave you that? Do you think that the way he coached you, and he kind of helped you guide you in learning how to get stuff yourself rather than getting preferential treatment?
Yeah, that's a good point. He treated, when he did coach me, he treated me like one of the guys. He treated my brother the same way. So it just kind of, it's a team sport anyway. So, you always want to be, everyone, obviously you have some players that have more ability than others, but you always want to be on the same level as far as being able to be coached and be coachable. And, I always just felt like one of the guys on the team. He never gave us, like you just said, any special treatment. We just kind of grew up with a group of guys, and at each level, I felt like I was always just one of the guys.
All right, next question. Coming out of high school, you were under recruited due to your size. Can you discuss a little bit about the recruiting process with Siena? What appealed to you about both the college, the program, and Coach Dane, and what ultimately led to your decision to go there to further your career?
Was definitely under recruited. Obviously there's some Division I programs right here in New Jersey that passed on me. They talked about I was too small. That was one of the things that was said about me. St. Peter's offered me a scholarship, but Seton Hall, Rutgers, they all were concerned with my size. My recruitment with Siena basically started my junior year, going into my senior year, AAU basketball. Mike Dean first saw me and first contacted me at Five Star Basketball Camp in Honesdale, Pennsylvania. And basically, I really chose Siena because they were relentless. They basically came to every game my senior year, 25 contests. They were present at each one. And I had never heard of Siena. But everything was pretty much done, and my fate was sealed on my visit to Siena. We played Hartford. They were playing Hartford. I remember like it was yesterday. It was a Saturday evening. Gym was packed, and I just really felt like it was a place that I could call home for 4 years. It was a really good game. I couldn't believe the level of talent that was there. They were in the top part of the league at the time. They were in the North Atlantic Conference, the NAC, and they weren't in the MAAC yet. We moved to the MAAC my junior year, and I just felt like it was a place that I could step in right away and play. And that was the sales pitch that Mike Dean approached me with. They had a senior point guard who was graduating, Matt Brady, who was going on to become a successful Division I coach actually, and I was really the only point guard they were recruiting. As a freshman, I was the only point guard on the roster, pure point guard on the roster. So playing time was important. When making my decision, I wanted to go to a school, to a program where I would play right away, and Siena offered me that, and that's why I made the decision.
Do you think when you came in, as you mentioned that you were the only pure point guard, do you think that kind of alleviated some of the pressure that that normally comes with being a freshman going into a college, that there was no one nipping at you to try to take your spot as a point guard?
Not really, because I was really kind of on a mission to prove myself, so it didn't matter who was on the roster at the time. Once I felt comfortable with Mike Dean and the coaching staff and made the decision to go to Siena, it didn't really matter who was there. I had in my mind, and I was determined to step on the floor right away, even as a freshman, and produce. That was kind of my mission. I wanted to prove a lot of people wrong, show a lot of people that I was a Division I player, prove to a lot of other coaches around the country that I was under-recruited, and I had a chip on my shoulder for 4 years, being honest.
There were a lot of great moments on the court, both individually and as a team, accumulating with NIT and NCAA appearances, and the upset in the NCAA tournament over Stanford. What moment or moments do you look back on with most fondness?
There are really two. The first one is, I know a lot of people assume I'm going to talk about the 2 free throws against Stanford. That's really my second favorite moment. My first favorite moment, to be honest with you, I wasn't even involved in the play. We defeated Boston University in an empty gym at the Hartford Civic Center in 1989 for Siena's first NCAA tournament appearance in school history. Tom Herter shot an air ball, which he likes to say was a pass, and Steve McCoy, our power forward who was a senior, put in the layup to win the game at the buzzer with no time on the clock on national television. That was easily my favorite moment during my 4 years at Siena. Obviously, to be part of the first team to ever reach a postseason tournament, well, NCAA tournament, because the previous year we'd gone to the NIT, which was the first team to ever reach a postseason tournament. That was special for me. That was special for the program. It was special for the coaching staff, and I know it was special for my teammates. My second favorite moment was obviously being able to finally knock down the 2 free throws against Stanford in the tournament in '89 after missing 2 previous 1-on-1s. So, and just a moment after embracing my dad, he ran on the court with the fans. It was our first game in front of, in front of spectators in maybe close to a month. I think we played 8 or 9 games in empty gyms and arenas. So that was a great feeling, and that was a feeling I'll never forget.
When you arrived at Siena, the basketball program still hadn't really made a leap into what it would become to be known at the Division I level. What does it mean to you? What does it mean to you personally to be the person who was the catalyst for eventually putting Siena on the map?
I give a lot of credit to Mike Dean. He had the vision, Siena being a smaller Division I program, to play some of the biggest schools. Obviously, he was responsible for us being part of the Alaska Shootout. We went on the road my freshman year. We played the University of Pittsburgh. We played Wake Forest. During my tenure at Siena, we played at Gainesville, and we had some success. We beat Pitt one year. We had some success. Obviously, we beat Stanford in the tournament. So I really give a lot of credit to Mike Dean. It was his vision. He did a great job of recruiting. he saw something different for the program. I think him being an assistant at Michigan State, seeing what big-time basketball was all about, I think he was really the catalyst to really start the process for Siena becoming a mid-major. Obviously, upgrading facilities was important. I think that was a big move for the program. My sophomore year when the Times Union Center. Back then, I think it was called the Knickerbocker Arena when it was built. That was a 14,000-seat arena that we pretty much filled the capacity when we played. So that was huge, and it really gave Siena's program a big-time college basketball feel. So, you know, my teammates and I, we talk about it all the time. I'm really in touch with Tom Herter, one of my former teammates, and we talk about how important it was for us to kind of help build Siena into the program it is today.
Let's talk a little bit about the '89 NCAA tournament. Just kind of, I guess, just the whole. Talk a little bit about the whole experience, being part of Siena's first Division I NCAA tournament, the fans being there, and just what the victories were like, and just that whole experience.
Well, it was so exciting for us because, like I said previously, this was our first game in front of spectators in maybe close to a month, which was awful. We played in front of, there was a measles epidemic. I don't know how many people remember this, but it was a breakout of measles on campus. And actually one of my former teammates, Marc Brown, he was diagnosed with the measles. So we were quarantined. We were thinking that our season was over. The NCAA approved us, the school being able to play basically in empty gyms. There was no one in the gyms but both teams, both coaching staffs, and obviously the support staff. So, you know, we went close to a month playing in those conditions. It was very difficult, very disappointing. So once we were able to play in front of spectators, it was like the season. It was like the first game of the season. I distinctly remember traveling down to Greensboro, North Carolina, shoot-arounds, and I remember our first game and seeing all our fans outside. It was kind of a gate to get into the back door of the arena, and we probably had 1,000 fans by this gate just to walk into the arena. And then once we got inside the arena, there obviously was a good crowd. I think that day Duke was playing Kansas State. We were playing obviously Stanford. So it was like I was a freshman all over again. And it was my first game of the season. The level of excitement, just hearing noise again besides coaches screaming and the screeching of sneakers on the wood floor, it was a great feeling. I'll never forget it. And then the fact that I had my dad there, I had my uncle, I had I had some friends in my family that were there in the crowd. It was a big day for us as a program, and it was a big day for me personally. And it was also a big day for Mike Dean as a head coach at Siena, to get that victory, to have gotten us to that point. And only I think that was his third season at the helm at Siena. It might have been fourth, but it was just a big day for the program.
I know you touched on it, but which teammates or coaches do you still keep in touch with, and what have those friendships forged meant to you over the years?
Well, first of all, I keep in touch with Mike Dean on a regular basis, my former head coach. I talked to him yesterday, as a matter of fact. He's finally retired, just retired as an assistant at James Madison. We talk maybe at least once a month. He's a guy that between him and my dad, they were responsible for my development as a player, as a man, to be honest with you. So he and I have become close friends. Tom Herter probably is second on that list. He and I talk probably once a month also. His son is doing really well in college. He has a son at Siena, he has a son at the University of Maryland. So we talk a lot. We just talk about ball, talk about life, family. And then the rest of the guys, I talk to maybe a couple times a year. I would say out of my 4 years, I probably stay in touch with about 25 guys. And I think that's a lot. I think Siena is a small Franciscan college. It's really a family atmosphere up in Albany, up in the Capital District, and I think I think the basketball program represented that tightness as a group, and you know, right now I'm 48 years old, and I look back. Sometimes I look at film and I remember some of the moments we had and some of the fun times, and I never hesitate to get on the phone and just call the guys up, or sometimes I get calls from them. It's also pretty cool when some of these guys show up to some of my games now. I'm the head coach at New Jersey University. Last season we made the NCAA tournament. I had one of my teammates, Steve McCoy. He's from Boston, Massachusetts. He came to our game against Skidmore at Babson. So these guys follow my career. I try to follow their careers, whether they're in whatever they're doing in their lives, and I've stayed in touch with a few guys.
Who are your key influencers, both athletically and academically at Siena, and what important lessons did they impart on you?
Well, the two people that have influenced me the most are obviously my father, and at Siena it was Mike Dean. I just touched on it a little earlier. They were the two guys that helped me develop into the basketball player that I became, but also the man that I became. Mike Dean was the kind of coach that nothing was off limits. Any conversation wasn't off limits. He was the first coach I ever played for that wouldn't allow me to call him coach. He stressed that he wanted us to call him by his first name, Mike, which I thought was weird. He always would say he never called us players, so don't call him coach. He and my dad are my two biggest influences. My dad, obviously, being a college graduate, also got his master's as he got older. Education was stressed in my household. So my objective when I got to Siena was obviously to graduate in 4 years, and I did that. Being a Division I player, there's a lot of stress on you during the season, during the seasons. So in my 4 years, I had a goal to graduate in 4 years without going to summer school. I was able to do that, and that was kind of attributed to the things that were instilled in me when I was young, from my parents. And Mike Dean was also obviously a college graduate. Obviously had a successful semi-pro career. So he always talked about obviously staying eligible, because obviously if you don't do the classwork, you won't be on the court. People get the student athlete aspect of it mixed around sometime, and I kind of wanted to stress the student part first. So those are my two biggest influences.
And last one, what made your time at Siena special for you, and how did it help prepare you to go on to have a successful professional career, first as a player, then as a coach?
Like I said, I really wanted to attend a school that really had a family atmosphere. Siena's enrollment was right around 4,000. I would say probably 3,500 of those stay on campus, and it was really a tight-knit community. So that was what I liked about Siena. My 4 years really flew by, went by so fast. Obviously, I developed as a basketball player during my 4 years at Siena, and I have to give credit to a lot of people. Obviously, the strength coaches. I was really small coming out of high school. I was 5'9", 145 pounds. I left Siena 6 feet, 185 pounds. So obviously my body developed in those 4 years. Mike Dean, who had been a really good point guard in his college career and semi-pro career, he was an All-American at Potsdam. He was instrumental in my development as a point guard. I was a scoring point guard. And I give a lot of credit to my development to Mike Dean and the coaches that he hired over my 4 years. Siena really prepared me to be a pro. I realized I could probably be a pro maybe my sophomore year in college. As I got stronger, as I was able to play, and I really did well against some of the bigger programs. So, and I just, Siena was a springboard to my pro career. I didn't get drafted. I thought I was going to get drafted. I played a couple years in the CBA, and I wound up playing 13 years overseas. And you know, I had a great pro career, a long pro career. 15 years is a long time to play professionally, and I was fortunate enough to play to 37. Once I hit around 32, 33, I kind of knew I wanted to coach. My first objective and my first thoughts were actually to try to join Mike Dean at the time. He was at Wagner College, and try to join his staff as an assistant. And things just worked out. My dad was thinking about retiring. I wanted to be a coach, and as he retired in '07, I became the head coach in New Jersey City University, a really strong Division III program in New Jersey, in October of 2007. So I was fortunate to get a head coaching job right after retirement, and I'm going to my 11th season. But Siena definitely prepared me for both, you know, both aspects of my career after basketball. Well, after Siena, I would say. So it's funny because I talked to a kid a couple of weeks ago who's being recruited by Siena, and he kind of asked me a couple of questions, what I thought, what attracted me to Siena, and I really told him it's just a great place to develop as a person. You know, forget the basketball part of it for a second, but just as a person, the Capital Region is a really nice place to live, a lot of things to do, a lot of different colleges, a lot of interesting people, and the school is kind of a representative of the Capital Region. So I was telling him that, you know, Siena, if you want a small school, a close-knit place to really develop as a person, Siena would be the perfect place for you.
Great. Awesome.
Okay, partner.